Hello and welcome back. So in this video, we would be looking at how to write functions in bash scripts. So without wasting much time, let's get started. So we have to create a new file. So this time I'll use the bash script, the create script that we created some time ago to create my new file. So create, then the name of I will call it functions.sh. functions.sh. So this create script would create this function.sh and then make it executable and do all the other things it's supposed to do for me. If you don't know how we did it, you can go back and watch the previous videos as we built this project till date. All right, so now I can come back here and look for my functions.sh and then it should be here. Right. So this has created it and then has even dumped the shebang inside for me. So I don't have to go through the pain of doing it myself. So basically to create functions in bash scripts, all you have to do is give the function name, and then your set of parentheses, and then your curly braces, and then you put your commands inside here. That's all. So all you have to do is you give the function name that you want to call it, and then you put a set of parentheses, and then these curly braces is where you put your commands. So you can put every command you want to put here for this function to execute. You can dump all of them here. So basically that's it. So let's see how to create a basic function. So I just want to create a function called greetings, which will greet me, right? So basically this function should just echo hello Sedem. Hello Sedem. That's all. How are you doing today? How are you doing today? So basically this is a simple function called greetings, and this function has this command. It's just supposed to echo hello Sedem, how are you doing today? So if I come here and now to call this function, all you have to do is do greetings. That's all. And then hopefully if I run this script /functions.sh, I should see hello Sedem, how are you doing today here for me. So bear in mind that this is the function. If we don't call this function or invoke this function, we will not get anything run when we run the script. So I ran it, there's nothing here simply because we didn't run this function. So we have hello Sedem, how are you doing today? What if I want to create the same function, but then I want this function to receive arguments, right? So I come back here. This time around, I just don't want a normal greetings, but I want it to greet me and then take arguments. So the same way to pass arguments. So let me call this functions with arguments. So if you've been following, we spoke of some arguments some time ago in the previous video. It's the same thing here. So the first argument becomes that you pass it can be catch here by $1. And then now I can just say hello Sedem, how are you doing today? I save this and I say greetings. I pass the argument just after calling the function. So I just give it Sedem like this. If I save this and I run this, it says hello Sedem, how are you doing today? So regardless the name I give it, so if I do Paul, it says, and I rerun this script, it says hello Paul. If I should do Bodman, it says hello Bodman, how are you doing today? So basically, this is how we write functions to receive arguments. This is a very basic written function, and then this receives an argument. Okay. But what if we want to write functions that would return a value, right? So if you've worked with any programming language before, you would know that the main reason for creating functions is to return some values that we can use in the continuation of our code, right? So returning values and functions or from functions. So to return a value, all you have to do is just use the return command. So let's say I'm creating a function, my function f, right, which is supposed to return something, right? So basically, once you give it any argument, it's supposed to return two arguments. So let me call it sum function. Now this sum function will return what? The sum of, if you watch our video on doing math with bash script, you should understand what I'm doing here. If you don't understand what I'm doing here, then I would advise you go back and watch it. So you should return the sum of the first argument and the second argument. Okay, sorry, the second argument. So basically, this function is returning the values, like the summation of the first and the second argument that you give it. So if I invoke this function by just saying sum and then 1 space 2, it means that this function is supposed to add 1 and 2, right? If I should rerun this script, I don't see anything here. Why? Because this function, I didn't echo anything. So to get the value this function is returning, all you have to do is to do what? Echo dollar question mark. So this return value here doesn't really work as the programming language one does. This every script returns a value whether it's successfully run or not. So you can decide to feature in the returning of the values by giving it your own values it's supposed to return. So now if I rerun the script, I should see 3 here, right? I should change this to 2 or 3, then this should give me what? 5. I should change this to, what if I do this 2.2? What happens? We know that by default, bash script only does integer arithmetic, right? So it assumes that the dot is an operator, right? So that's that. So I can go back and do this. Right? But then what if our return function, let's see whether we can make this return something else. So let's write a different function. So let me call it quotient or divide. And then this divide function should. So we said that if you want to do any floating point arithmetic, then you have to do either use awk or BC. So let me try using BC here. So I want to echo, let's say $1 divided by $2, right? So, and then pipe it to BC to work for me, right? So basically this command will send this command into BC, right? Now, if you want to limit your decimal places to a certain number of decimal places, then you can use the scale, and then you give it maybe 4 decimal places. Then you end this. Now, while you use the scale, then you would have to pass the -L option here, right? So now, if I call divide, the divide function, and I say divide 1 by 2, then I should get 0.5. But then you see the 4 decimal places here. What if we can also remove the math library here and it should still work, I guess. 4 decimal places. But then what if I want to retain this value, right? So we said that if you like what you see and you want to store it as a variable, you add dollar, right? But then here, I want to retain this value. We'll get an error. This error says that there's numeric argument required, which means that the return variable or the return statement in bash script only returns integers, right? So you can actually return the floating point value. So keep that in mind. If you plan on using a return, make sure that the values you be returning should always be what? Whole numbers or integers, right? So keep that in mind when you are doing your returns. So I wouldn't want to return it, but instead, there's also an interesting feature here in declaring functions in bash script, and that is that I wouldn't return this. Okay. That feature is that when dealing with local and global variables, any variable you declare here can be accessed outside the function, right? So local and global variables basically is that the idea is that if I should define a variable, let's say num1 equals 2 and num2 equals 3 or 4, then if I should define a function, let's say f of x or some function, that's no, let me just say f that takes two variables, right? So num1 and num2 are ideally the global variables because they've been declared even before the function has been created. So we can access these variables inside this by just multiplying or adding them. So let's multiply num1 star, sorry, num2, right? So I have this here. Okay. So basically, or ideally, this function, if I just call this function just f and run this, I should get the 2 times 4, 6. Okay. Sorry. I should get 6. Okay. So I have to echo. Okay. I save this, I should get 6. Yeah. Sorry, 8. 2 times 4, 8. So I should get 8 here. All right. So this works, right? But then what if instead of echoing, I reassign this as answer, right? So in the scope of local and global variables, ideally, num1 and num2 are supposed to be the global variables, while answer is supposed to be the local variable of this function. So which means that ideally, I'm not supposed to be able to access this variable outside this function, right? But then there's one interesting thing about bash script or bash is that I can still echo this answer outside the function and it would still work. So if I echo this answer, ideally the f shouldn't print anything. So let me save it. I shouldn't see the 8 here. There's no 8. But if I uncomment this one and I rerun, I see 8, right? So which means that the ideal global and local variable that we know wouldn't work. But instead, if we want to categorically state that answer should be a local variable, then I just have to say local. Add the local here beside answer, which is that answer should only be used within this function. If I should come here and call answer, it shouldn't work. So let's see, if I rerun this code, there is nothing here, which means that I can't use answer here. But if I should send this echo inside the function and I rerun it, I should see the answer here. So basically this is it. So you can choose to declare local variables and global variables in your functions. If you like, you can just decide to just do the variable inside it and then call the variable outside the function if you want to. But then this will be all, and this is all we have to teach you on functions in Bash. I hope from now you can use this and apply it to the math you know, and then be able to do some interesting math functions. That being said, in the next video, we would do some interesting activities where we see how we can combine the knowledge we've gained so far from writing Bash scripts to see whether we can actually apply them to do some serious math computation. That'll be all for this video. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and share with your friends so they could also learn and enjoy as well. And we can't wait to see you in the next one. Thank you.